In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
Hello, everybody. It is I, Bryce Robbins, and I'm joined today by a guest that I've been planning for a while. Her name's Carey Welder, and she has been made pretty famous on social media, some of her videos, but I'm going to let her introduce herself, so why don't you say hi, tell everyone who you are, what you're about, and what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Hi, thanks for having me on. My name's Carey Welder. I got started on YouTube, actually, so that's sort of my main form of communication, but I'm also the senior editor for an independent news organization called the antimedia.org. You can tell from the name it's pretty anti-establishment, but we're all just activists trying to make a difference.
Very cool. So I'm going to play a short clip from one of the videos that I found you from. Pretty clear by the name, how I became a self-hating Jew. And that's pretty much going to be the topic of discussion today, is going to be Israel, politics, and war. So I'm going to run the clip, and here we go.
Why are children being murdered in shelters? You're biased. Assad and ISIS kill children all the time, and no one says anything. They just hate Jews, so they mention it about Israel. But doesn't Israel claim to be a democracy with humanitarian values? Hello, the IDF gives a 5-minute warning, which is plenty of time for, say, like a family of 5 to gather everyone in their family and a few of their precious belongings and try to hustle down a flight of stairs with other families also trying to run for their lives. And, it doesn't matter that they're bombing their homes and their livelihoods because they gave a 5-minute warning. It's humane. Where do you expect them to evacuate to when they're surrounded by the IDF on one side and the sea on the other? Human shields, human shields, human shields. There has been some evidence of Hamas using human shields, but do you really think all of the thousands of civilians injured and killed by hundreds of tons of American-funded Israeli bombs were human shields? You're defending Hamas, and if so, if Israel is the moral superior here, why must they fall into Hamas's moral trap? The civilians deserve to die.
All right, so I'll cut it there. I think everyone can get the point, kind of where you're going with that. So first, let me ask, what inspired you to make this video?
That's a great question. Just for the listeners who don't know that was me having that entire conversation, how I became a self-hating Jew, it's just sort of a conversation, a recap of a conversation, multiple conversations I had with a lot of Israel supporters. And I made the video just because I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up in a very densely populated Jewish area, I guess. My mom's Jewish, so that would make me feel Jewish, even though I wasn't raised that way. But just being born into that sort of culture and that environment, you think Jews are good. And just, I was raised to think all people are good, not Jewish people are good, just human beings are good. But you see that Jewish star, you see it on a menorah growing up, you see it on a flag, you just assume well, that's my family, that's my parents, the Jews are good. Okay. And that was just sort of the mentality I had. You know, I had friends who had bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. They went on birthright. They went to Israel. My sister went to Israel just a couple years ago on birthright. And so I sort of just avoided investigating the conflict because I just didn't want to know. I didn't want to know how bad it could be. I knew that there were issues. I knew there were human rights issues. I just didn't want to handle it. And then 2 summers ago, 2014, during Operation Protective Edge, it was just such a hot button issue. I had to look into it. I had to look into the history of Israel. I felt like I was doing a disservice to myself by being ignorant. And along the course of all of my research and the history I was looking into, I would bring these things up to people who were very, let's say, passionate on social media. I don't fight on social media anymore. I've learned my lesson. It's just not worth it. But at the time, I was trying to have constructive conversations with people, and I got called every name in the book. Like, I was called a self-hating Jew. I was called anti-Semitic. I was called violent, dangerous. I was a terrorist sympathizer. I was anything you could possibly imagine. That's what I was called. And I kept trying to think of a video idea. And eventually it just came to this. I was like, wait, I need to just express how people react to just the mildest criticism of Israel. And so that's how the video was born.
Okay. So now, let me ask, because you used some pretty radical language, and you said, you know, I grew up not thinking that Jews were bad. So is your argument that Jews are bad or that Israel is bad?
Oh, no, not at all. And that's the thing is, it's not that Israel is bad. It's not that Jews are bad. It's that from where I'm coming from in my experience, in my study of history, I majored in history. What I learned, what clicked for me after college when I first renounced my support for President Obama, was that it's not about a specific group. It's just the way government is. You know, it's not like the Israeli government is bad. It's government is bad. It's not Israel's corrupt. It's government is corrupt. And so, of course that government will be corrupt. It's not because Jews are bad. It's not because Israelis are any certain way. It's just that the Israeli government has the opportunity to exploit. And so, like any other government, it will.
So, now, let me ask, do you think that there should be an Israeli state? A Jewish state?
I mean, you know, I understand that things are the way they are. I know that one of my biggest difficulties is people saying that, you know, well, it doesn't matter if the Palestinians are there. What are we supposed to do? Give all the land back to the Native Americans or the Mexicans? And like, that was something that I encountered a lot, people telling me that. And my reaction is, I'm sorry, you have to compare yourself to a centuries-old government that violated people's rights in order to justify what's happening in 2015, 2016. Like, it just doesn't square with me. So Israel exists. You know, it's not going away. I personally don't. I have an issue with a country that was purchased through colonialism, because the British were imperializing that region when the Jews started buying it from them. And for me, that seems like blood money to me. You know, like how can you be okay with buying land that was stolen from other people? And I know that there's a debate as to whether or not it was stolen, but how many years are we going to go back? You know, at the end of the day, if there's a country occupying innocent human beings, I can't look upon it favorably, and I can't really lend it legitimacy. Just like I don't give the American government legitimacy. It's not about Israel. It's not about being anti-Semitic. It's just about not wanting people to be oppressed, including Jews.
So this next question. So, you know, in the United States of America, and we are very similar in government to Israel. Now, if you lived in many other countries in the world, you wouldn't be able to do what you do. So, in that sense, why is it that you, rather than want to improve, it seems, government, you dislike it so much?
Why I don't support government anymore?
Yes, because what I'm saying is that it seems that in many other countries around the world, you would be, you know, you could be killed for some of the things you've done. So, my question is,
totally.
Why do you not support a government that gives you personal freedom and liberty?
I mean, we can say that government gives me personal freedom and liberty, but at the same time, they're slaughtering a bunch of innocent people. I mean, the United States military bombed a Doctors Without Borders hospital and killed dozens of innocent people. So, yeah, I might enjoy some freedom of speech, but you can guarantee that it's being recorded into an NSA database. And I'm sorry, to me, that's not being free. You know, and like, I totally, absolutely am so grateful for the fact that I can say the things I do. And that's exactly why I still feel the need to. Because it's not like we live in a freedom utopia in 2016 in the United States. We don't. There's some really dangerous rhetoric going on, and there are a lot of people who support it. And that's the creepiest thing, is that, yeah, I can say what I want right now, and, you know, I'm not an Obama supporter anymore, but his reputation and his legacy is far too delicate for him to be black-bagging people, you know? Like, they're a little more surreptitious about it. They take notes, and they keep tabs, and they keep files. That's just the way government operates. It's not just Obama. Like, I learned that, too. It's not all his fault. But at the end of the day, it's all relative.
The government is doing its best to keep us safe with the NSA to ensure that the land of the free and the home of the brave stays that way. Because think about all the terrorist attacks that are stopped because we have surveillance. I mean, that's how most terrorist attacks are stopped.
Which terrorist attacks? Can you cite any specifically?
No, because I'm saying they've been stopped. That's the whole beauty of it, is that when we give government certain tools, they
go ahead, finish what you have to say.
I'm sorry. No. You can say what you're going to say.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Because all of the terrorist attacks that I've heard of being foiled were crafted and instigated by the FBI because they're looking for a reason to justify their existence. And I think it's a pretty dangerous road to walk down to conflate goodness and morality with government. So you're saying that, well, the NSA keeps us safe. How? I'm asking how, because I haven't seen any examples. They haven't been able to produce any evidence that they've had any sort of significant effect whatsoever. So really what it comes down to is having the ability to store and control the data of millions of people. And that just makes me kind of uncomfortable. It's kind of creepy. And my question to you is, if it were the Bush administration, would you have been comfortable with that? Because I know that there are millions of Americans who make excuses for Obama, but they would be criticizing it out in the streets if George Bush had done it, or if Donald Trump were to do it in the future.
Okay, but the whole point of the Fourth Amendment is that there is no unreasonable search and seizure. So what was before may be unreasonable, and what might be unreasonable in your mind is deemed reasonable by the majority of society to keep us safe. But I want to get back to the topic of Israel. So Israel is the only country in the Middle East that gives gay rights, gives largely many women's rights, gives many of the personal freedoms which you treasure so much. Whereas a country that is run by a terrorist organization like Hamas gives no rights to women, kills the gays, is an atrocity to, civil liberties and human rights. So why is it that you are so against a country that gives these liberties?
Well, first we have to acknowledge that they're not given equally to everyone. Arabs are very largely excluded from society. The Israeli school curriculum is extremely racist, and it's constantly demonizing Arabs. So just like I would criticize the United States or any other country, Saudi Arabia, an American ally, we can't pretend like they're just giving the gift of freedom to all of these people. It's not true. And of course I don't support Hamas. They're a terrorist organization. But I think if we really want to have a talk about ending the violence and ending the suffering, both for Israelis and for Palestinians, we need to take a look at the root of where this is coming from. Like, yes, Hamas is evil. They're dangerous. They're oppressive. But of course, when people are desperate and they feel like they have no other hope, they're going to turn to a group of people that says, hey, we're going to fight back against the oppressor. That's only natural.
Israel has repeatedly given concrete, water, electricity to the people of Palestine. And what did they do with it? They made tunnels to destroy Israel on Rosh Hashanah, one of the most holy holidays. They have repeatedly attacked them with the resources that were given. So I don't necessarily agree with the sentiment that Israel is depriving these people. Well, I think it is those people, those corrupt governments. Hamas itself is a terrible organization that is doing this to its people. So I don't know if I can agree.
Okay, but why? Why are funds being used to build tunnels? We can't just pretend like these are happy, free Palestinians and the Israelis are just being so generous by giving them resources. Why are they giving them resources? Oh, that's right, because they're occupying them and they're blocking off resources. So from an international global perspective, PR standpoint, yeah, they're going to give them some supplies. This is not surprising. This is how an occupation works. And they're trying to glamorize it and make it seem like it's not an occupation.
Now in 2000,
it's an occupation. Under international law, this is not disputed.
and Hamas rejected it and responded with a wave of suicide bombers. Now, I'm giving repeated examples of how Israel is giving in order to get peace. So how do you respond to that, where Israel is giving away?
Okay, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to stop you there because you're saying that Israel keeps giving. So could you please explain to me how, in spite of all of this giving, why are they moving forward with illegal settlements? Please explain that to me. And how do you expect people living on that land to feel when their homes are bulldozed and they're kicked out and their babies are burned alive? Please tell me how you expect them to feel and how you can keep saying that Israel is giving them so much.
Well,
explain that. How are the settlements okay? Please answer that directly. Why are the settlements okay?
Okay, so first of all, settlements, no, I can agree with you there. Some of those settlements are provocatory and need to be halted and pushed back. But what I must say is that Israel has provided Palestinians with 95% of the land that they promised back in 2000 in order for peace. Israel on day one was attacked for being a Jewish state. What's his name? Al-Nasser.
No, I'm sorry, man. It's not for being a Jewish state. And yes, there are anti-Semites in Palestine, of course, and it is absolutely unmitigated and unjustified hatred. But you can't be serious when you say that it's just about hating Jews. Like, that's just not a serious statement. That's not academic. That's not intellectually honest.
Do you know what Hamas's motto is? It's we love death as much as the Jews love life. So
what is it?
Hamas's
we hate Jews as much as the Jews. Yeah. I've heard that. Yes, and I'm not exactly sure. It seems like what you're trying to do is conflate my criticism with Israel with support of Hamas. And to be honest, that's a very common tactic, and it's not valid.
No,
Just because I don't support Israel doesn't mean I support Hamas. And you keep bringing it back to Hamas, and I've never said I support Hamas, so I'm not sure what your point is.
No, I'm not saying that. But what you are saying is
then why do you keep bringing up Hamas? If we're talking about Palestinian people being oppressed, we're not talking about the Palestinian government. Hamas is the government. I'm talking about the people.
Okay, so fine. Let's go with the people. So it still takes two to tango, and it seems that in the education system, everything is terrible in Palestine, and you want to blame that on Israel.
How long has Palestine been occupied by the Israeli military?
Tell me.
Well, let's see. There's the 6-Day War. So since the 1960s, there's been a military presence. So I have a question for you. Can you please bring up another example of a military occupation of a population that has been looked kindly upon by history?
That is looked kindly upon.
When is occupation ever justified?
In order to keep stability.
When? Where?
First of all, how are we going to call this an occupation?
Hitler occupied a bunch of people, and he thought he was stabilizing Europe. So
you're
stabilization really is not an excuse.
A man who killed millions and millions of people.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's an equal death, but I'm saying that mentality that occupation is okay for stability, that's an excuse for fascism.
Now,
is the American military's occupation of Iraq justified for stability?
Let me
Can we justify that?
That's a whole.
Can we? I'm asking because that's the exact same logic. We're not talking about Hitler. We're talking about the American military, a U.S. ally that funds Israel. They've engaged in occupation of both Afghanistan and Iraq. Is that okay for stability? If they're killing innocent people?
Absolutely. Because when
that's okay.
Because look at the government. Look at the government, Hamas. What they are doing to their people is an atrocity. During the most recent conflict over the summer, they were beating children and mothers and fathers, telling them to get back inside their homes after Israel gave phone calls, dropped notes, saying that there would be bombing within the next couple of hours. And you know what happened? Come on. Hamas pushed them back into their homes.
I'm sorry to ask you, but did you watch my video?
Yes, I did.
Did you watch the entire video?
Yes, I did.
So why are you making excuses? Like, why are you pretending like Israel dropping little paper notifications that they're about to kill a bunch of people? Like, why are you pretending like that's the benevolent humanitarian thing to do? They're still killing people. They're still bombing homes.
I'm not saying that.
So you can blame Hamas all you want, but Hamas is a direct product of Israeli oppression. Yes, Hamas is terrible. So is the Islamic State. It doesn't mean that Western intervention or Israeli intervention had nothing to do with it. So if you want to focus on the consequence, that's fine, but you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to keep instigating the same problem.
No, I definitely agree that the United States and the West has caused problems and instability in the Middle East, and I would not disagree with you on that. But what I am saying is who we should support now. And who we should support now, to me, seems to be the Western-style countries. So let me ask you this question. If Israel put down its weapons tomorrow and said, we will fight no more, this is a question that Dennis Prager asked on his show. And he came to the conclusion that if they did that, there would be destruction, bloodshed. But if these Middle Eastern countries and their people said, we will fight no more, there would be peace. What do you believe?
I don't think it's that simple. I think that the intention of peace would be there, and I think that the vast majority of people, given their land back and given the opportunity to just be free and be with their families, they would do that. I've spoken individually with Palestinians who contact me because of this video. I've spoken to people with good hearts who don't hate Jews. And I make that very clear. This is not about hating Jews. Of course, if this were to happen tomorrow, there would still be a decent portion of the population, a strong minority, but a decent population that was still bitter against Israel. And that comes with the territory. I'm sorry. Like, we have to be, if we're talking about Israel, if we're talking about occupation, we have to look at the context. We have to look at where Israel gets its power. It gets it from the United States. And the United States, in turn, is very much Israel's lapdog. But at the end of the day, the weapons and the money come from the U.S. And if we're looking at the United States, I don't think you have any problem admitting how corrupt and screwed up the military occupations around the world have been by the United States. So we can't just pretend like we're in some vacuum and Israel is just this innocent victim. It's not like that. Israel is aligned with one of the most evil militaries in the world.
Okay,
what I don't understand
here is you want peace, right? That's your ultimate goal here? Is your
Absolutely.
Peace
mm-hmm.
out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah.
Now, a person who I don't really look highly upon was Ronald Reagan, but one thing that he did say that I agree with is peace through strength. Show your strength and we will have peace. And it seems that whenever we take the approach of everybody singing Kumbaya, people get trounced, people get walked on, and ultimately everybody ends up getting hurt. So, do we not need a strong military to have peace?
There's a big difference between military and defense. There's a big difference between protecting your borders and protecting your citizens and going off and waging wars and taking territory that doesn't belong to you. So, yeah, Ronald Reagan's an idiot. I've never been a fan of Ronald Reagan. I'm a libertarian. There are some libertarians that worship him. I think I don't want to cuss on your show. That's just ridiculous. But peace through strength sounds like it's out of the book 1984. Come on. And Ronald Reagan was a huge militarist, and he ramped up the military. He had Star Wars. He was a violent president. So I just think it's dangerous to be quoting people that we already know are dangerous and had oppressive policies and weren't really concerned with the well-being of humanity.
In order to preserve the peace, we need a strong military to defend our country, to defend our way of life. So my question is here, is that when you have crazy nut jobs like Bashar al-Assad and, Kim Jong-un threatening nuclear...
And Benjamin Netanyahu?
Holocaust. Why should we not be going after people like those lunatics who are killing more people than we are? I mean, think about it. Bashar al-Assad has launched an attack that has killed over 200,000 of his own citizens. That's just his citizens. We don't know how many people Kim Jong-un has killed in his death camps. But this...
Why is that America's responsibility? What did America have to do with Assad rising to power?
Well,
why is that Western responsibility? Yes, it's terrible. It's a travesty, but
because
that's how we got into Iraq. Saddam Hussein is an oppressive dictator. Oh, no, we have to take him out. He's so dangerous. We have to liberate all these people. And we know that's not what it was about. And it's honestly surprising me. You told me you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. He's pretty outspoken about intervention, although my biggest issue with him is that he's still talking about how we need to oust Assad. So I guess I'm not surprised that you're using this talking point. But ultimately, all it means is another example of American intervention. And you're a smart kid. You know what the history of that is. You know the track record. So it's interesting to me that you're still sitting here saying that we need to go defend these people and that we need a strong military. Because it's proven the military has nothing to do with freedom. Like, in what pace did the American military go liberate a bunch of people? The last time that happened was World War II, and there are some pretty vicious stories about American soldiers that most people don't even know. So there's a disconnect. I don't understand your logic here.
And I would say the same. Now, but what I don't get here is that when the United States steps up, right? I mean, look at Bosnia. We gave liberty to all these people. In Iraq, no. You know what? The job didn't work. But let's not forget, we were in Japan for 50 years. We were in Iraq for 13 years, and then we pulled out prematurely, and we had intel that ISIS or a group like it would rise. Not ISIS itself.
Yeah, and the military let that happen. So you want to trust that military to take care of you? The military do this. And they let it happen anyway. And you're still saying that they need to be entrusted with power?
No,
what?
There's a huge hole in
Do you
your
know how much
logic.
corruption there is in the military? Do you have any idea the billions of dollars that go to the Boeing Corporation just to manufacture bombs to sell off to countries like Saudi Arabia and to go bomb innocent people in Pakistan? This is not some happy, idealistic world where the military serves the people's interests and they're really concerned. The individuals in the military, yes, people join the military to protect people. But the higher-ups and the corporate lobbyists have no concern. That's not what it's about.
So what should our role in the world be with our military?
With our military, it's time to scale back.
Scale back.
And this is honestly why I have a problem with Bernie Sanders, because I was inspired by Ron Paul, and I've come to the conclusion over the years, I've been an activist for 5 years now, I've learned that there is no single person who can save the world. It's not going to happen. Ron Paul couldn't do it. There's no other candidate I would ever support ever again. I'm not a Rand Paul person. Donald Trump makes my blood run cold. Like, it's not... but at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders is still supporting the military-industrial complex, and we can debate that for 5 hours because I know any Bernie Sanders supporter would dutifully debate me on that. But the truth is, he's still talking about ousting leaders. He's not really talking about scaling back the military in any huge way. And if we want to talk about the biggest driver of terrorism, those are U.S. bombs.
All right, hang on here.
Those are U.S.-made Israeli bombs in Palestine.
To close its doors and scale back on its military, Adolf Hitler rose to power in Europe. That was the last time that we decided we were going to shut our doors for a little while and go a little isolation-y. So...
But that was the will of the people. That was actually the will of the American people. And Franklin Roosevelt defied that. He let Pearl Harbor happen. He told Winston Churchill a year before Pearl Harbor he would find a way to get America into the war. He defied the people's will. And then he dragged the United States into the biggest war it had ever been in. Is that just? The people didn't even want it.
All right. On that note, we're going to go to break. If you could stay with us till when we get back and we can continue this conversation, that would be great. But we're going to go to break. All right, I'm Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation. I'm talking with Carey Welder about Israel, war, the United States, and its military. So this is a hot convo, and stick around. We'll be right back.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
All right, guys, we're ready for our four-season sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh, no. We'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh, no, wait. A family hub.
Yeah! No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to receive your free, no-obligation brochure from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
More reasons for Four Seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-928-7007. That's 800-928-7007. Call 800-928-7007 today.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, security, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino. And how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve, as they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Bryce Robbins, and I'm joined with Carey Welder today on Opinion Nation. If you missed it, I encourage you to go back, rewind, watch. This is a very heated discussion about, the role of the military, Israel, the United States, and everything around the globe. So we're going to start to wind things down, but I just wanted to ask, kind of preferencing a question before. So in the United States, we have gay marriage. Women have right to an abortion. We can go out, speak freely. We can join an independent press like you do. We can speak how we want. We can protest, petition. We can have whatever religion we want. Largely the same in Israel. My question is, why do you oppose a government which gives the very liberties and freedom and peace and prosperity that you want so much for everybody else?
Well, okay, first we have to talk about what the right to protest really means, and it's really nice to talk about freedom of speech, and yes, relative to Saudi Arabia, we do have freedom of speech, but I think it's leaving out a lot to not acknowledge the way that protest has been criminalized in this country and in Israel. I mean, I just wrote a story about a 70-something, she's 58, I believe, 58-year-old woman, grandmother, protesting drones at Hancock Air Force Base in New York. She's arrested. Multiple people are arrested just for standing around protesting warfare. And this grandmother, this was in 2014, and she was just sentenced to a year in jail for this. A year in jail. And this is not uncommon. It's not like, it's not a guarantee that if you go out and protest, you're going to get beat up by a cop. But you see the way police protest, or police encircle protest. This is not free speech. When you have the government intimidating citizens, trying to shut them up, and using the threat of violence, that's not free speech. It's just not, and that's not how it used to be.
Campaign, my mom, someone like Bernie Sanders, his campaign, right? He's moving all these people. Obama's campaign is moving all these people. I mean, there's a rally today for him in New York City. They're walking down to Union Square. I mean, not all protests need to be like Black Lives Matter protests that turn violent. Not all protests need to be like Ferguson.
I'm coming from a very different philosophical standpoint from you, clearly, but as someone who is a fanatic Obama supporter, I'm sorry, but that was not a protest. That was a cult, and it really did very little to change this country. And I'm seeing the same thing with Bernie. I know you're going to hate me for that. I'm sorry, but I'm seeing the same hysteria and placing faith in one individual, and that's just irrational. It's just not sensible. But as far as Israel, yeah, Israel is the same way. People are cracked down on for free speech there. Not women. Well, actually, yes. Ethiopian Jews, women, have been forcibly sterilized in Israel. That's real. That happens. How do you justify that? Does that mean that all people have equal rights? Do all women have equal rights? No. And I'm not saying that makes them horrible places to live. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're repressive regimes, but I am saying there are flaws, and we can't keep having this dualistic binary thinking where it's like, well, there's the evil Islamists and then there's the West, and we're free and we're good and we allow free speech. And then there's the evil Islamists who hate women and hate Jews. That's not how the world works. And I think trying to boil it down to being that simplistic really does us a disservice when it comes to really thinking up solutions and trying to come up with ways to move past this. So and I also just want to say, last thing is that you said that the government gives us freedom, and I just fundamentally disagree. We have our freedom as humans, and it's supposed to be the government's job to protect it, but that's not how it works. So we have to be really careful about using language that implies that we get our freedoms from the government.
Nope, we don't. I agree with you. John Locke all the way. All right, let me ask you one last question and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
So the whole reason I found you was your video. It was titled Self-Hating Jew. So throughout this interview, it seems that we've established that you are against Israel and oppression. Why did you decide to title your video Self-Hating Jew?
Because every time I asked questions about Israel to Israel supporters, that's the only thing they could tell me. You're a self-hating Jew. You're a self-hating Jew. You just hate yourself. You hate Jews. And there's this one girl I went to high school with, and she sent me a message saying that I should be ashamed of myself because I was betraying my identity and my people. Never responded to any of the links I sent her, being like, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Can you explain this to me? No response. It's just, you're a self-hating Jew. Block. Never saw her again on Facebook. And I just got so sick of people rejecting information and defaulting on a stupid name like a self-hating Jew. Like, that was just a word made up by Israel supporters to criticize other Jews who have questions. And believe me, there are a lot of Jews who have questions. Like, our generation of Jews in America is extremely skeptical of Israel, and it's because of all the things we've been talking about today.
All right. Well, any last thoughts? Thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Sure. Yeah. Check out antimedia.org. That's my main gig. But you can just search Carey Wedler on YouTube. CareyWedler. Read the comments. That's always hilarious. You can just see the idea or the level of hate that's on the internet. If you want to know how I came up with Self-Hating Jew, just read some of the comments on my other YouTube videos. I actually disabled comments for that video just because I couldn't bear the violent language. But other than that, go check out my YouTube channel and see what I'm talking about.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope to
Thanks for having me.
Have you back in the future.
Awesome. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So that was Carey Wedler. She was described as the self-hating Jew on her own YouTube page. Now, I fundamentally disagree with that. Her notion that Israel is this oppressive government. Kind of funny, though. I'm going to kind of jump around here from topic to topic. Her page, the anti-media page, to me, I don't understand how, I appreciate what I get to do here. I get to speak on this radio show, and my voice can be heard by however many people want to listen. And her, paper can be read by whoever wants to read. And you have the freedom to say what you want in this country. As there's very few provisions on that. As long as it doesn't create a clear and present danger or any of those other rules, like it's an obscenity, then publicly it can be deemed, the government won't touch it. Because that is our natural born rights. And it just kind of seems odd that a country that by and far provides the most liberty to its people, this country, is, and she's taking advantage of it, is being told that we're oppressive and we're this and we're that. To me, it doesn't really make sense. Now, then she goes on to talk about how other countries are oppressive, how the United States oppresses all these other countries. And I've talked about that before, right? I'll be the first to admit, I think that the West destroyed the Middle East and has caused this problem. But it's like Colin Powell once said, this is the Pottery Barn War. You break it, now you got to buy it. And I think that's ultimately the case here, is that we are the reason that, I think her and I can agree here, that the United States is one of the biggest causes of the mishap that has happened. That, we have led to the overthrowing of dictators that led to instability, or we have, destroyed democracies and, put in the Shah or kings and monarchs, whatever, dictators, and have led to instability. Yes, I can agree with that. And that's terrible. But for you to say that we are this oppressive empire almost that is just taking away liberty and rights, and Israel is, this occupation state, I disagree. Because we provide rights to the people, right? And people who live in our country, live our way of life, know that. And while she's going to take advantage of what the American government and what our Constitution and Founding Fathers have laid out for us, I think she totally misses the fact that those things are only preserved by common defense of our military and our strength. That's in my eyes. So I actually wanted to play the opposition's point of view, and I'm going to go extreme opposition on this one. I'm going to play Dennis Prager's clip. It's called dennisprager.israel.peace. Now, it's had over 4 million views. Dennis Prager is a very conservative guy. I don't agree with him on a whole host of things, and I would love, if I could go on his show, he could go on mine, that'd be fun. But I'm going to play his clip, see what you guys think.
When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University's School of International Affairs, I took many courses on the question of the Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world, when in fact, it is probably the easiest conflict in the world to explain. It may be the hardest to solve, but it is the easiest to explain. In a nutshell, it's this. One side wants the other side dead. Israel wants to exist as a Jewish state and to live in peace. Israel also recognizes the right of Palestinians to have their own state and to live in peace. The problem, however, is that most Palestinians and many other Muslims and Arabs do not recognize the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist. This has been true since 1947, when the United Nations voted to divide the land called Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Jews accepted the United Nations partition, but no Arab or any other Muslim country accepted it. When British rule ended on May 15, 1948, the armies of all the neighboring Arab states, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Transjordan, and Egypt, attacked the one-day-old state of Israel.
No, I did say that in the interview and she disagreed, but besides the point.
In order to destroy it. But to the world's surprise, the little Jewish state survived. Then it happened again. In 1967, the dictator of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, announced his plan, in his words, to destroy Israel. He placed Egyptian troops on Israel's border, and armies of surrounding Arab countries were also mobilized to attack. However, Israel preemptively attacked Egypt and Syria. Israel did not attack Jordan and begged Jordan's king not to join the war. But he did. And only because of that did Israel take control of Jordanian land, specifically the West Bank of the Jordan River.
So that is where we had our debate. She's saying that's occupation. Was it occupation if they went to war with us?
Shortly after the war, the Arab states went to Khartoum, Sudan, and announced their famous 3 no's. No recognition, no peace, and no negotiations. What was Israel supposed to do? Well, one thing Israel did a little more than a decade later in 1978 was to give the entire Sinai Peninsula, an area of land bigger than Israel itself and with oil, back to Egypt, because Egypt, under new leadership, signed a peace agreement with Israel. So Israel gave land for the promise of peace with Egypt, and it has always been willing to do the same thing with the Palestinians. All the Palestinians have ever had to do is recognize Israel as a Jewish state and promise to live in peace with it. But when Israel has proposed trading land for peace, as it did in 2000, when it agreed to give the Palestinians a sovereign state in more than 95% of the West Bank and all of Gaza, the Palestinian leadership rejected the offer and instead responded by sending waves of suicide terrorists into Israel.
All right, so that's all I'm going to play for now. You want to catch the rest, you can just look up Dennis Prager, Israel. Now, see, I pointed it out, right? You can't just say it's about the people when their government is the oppressor. I mean, you want to take out an oppressor, then yes, we should go to war with Hamas. And unfortunately, yes, people do get targeted and people do get caught in the crosshairs and there's casualties. And yes, there have been thousands of casualties and we can do a better job at limiting casualties. But the fact of the matter is, what do you do if another government, Hamas in this case, is using their own people as cannon fodder? They are using them as human shields. They are using them to, as PR. They round up their own people and put them back into buildings so when they get bombed, there's more casualties. They dress up like citizens, normal citizens, so that when they die, they can get counted as a civilian. Do we not see a problem here? The oppressor is not Israel. The oppressor is the sovereign state that has been voted to be a sovereign state by many European countries, Hamas, who in my eyes and the eyes of the United States government and the eyes of many other governments is a terrorist organization, hell-bent on destroying Israel and the West's way of life. But for some reason, people don't always see it that way. And in my eyes, it seems that what Ms. Welder fails to understand is how precious liberty is. It is what you make of it. And when you trounce things like the NSA, as we do so often, as depriving us of personal liberties, that notion is ridiculous to begin with. Because what? Are we supposed to be blindsided? Are we not supposed to use surveillance on people? Of course we are. No, not 1984 where we have cameras in everyone's homes. But, I mean, come on. You gotta realize here, we live in a post-9/11 world, and what was once unreasonable is now reasonable. And for somebody to say things such as, that they're an occupation, that the NSA takes away our liberty, that we are not truly free, that is not true. I can go outside, protest, and she's talking about there's no protests. Come on. A protest isn't, Martin Luther King's protests were peaceful, and they were, treated terribly. That example, when people are getting hosed for peaceful demonstration, that is not okay. But when you are peacefully protesting, then it's a difference. Nowadays, at least it should be. So, I want to pose this question, and I want my viewers to give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on the positioning of the United States and Israel in the world. Should we actively pursue the role of a global police? I would say no. Should we stand away from everything and just kind of isolate ourselves? I also say no. I think there's often a truth is in the middle. And when you have countries such as Iran who say that their goal is to obtain a nuclear missile to burn Israel off the map, then you have no option. When you have suicide bombers coming over, there's no other option but to build a wall. There is no other option to box you in. And unfortunately, when people are subservient to a terrorist organization as a government, then yes, you have no other option but to face the consequences in this sense. Israel deserves a right to exist. Israel deserves a right to defend itself because it is a free state. If what we want is peace around the world, then it makes no sense to demonize one state that provides peace to its citizens and would willfully provide peace to its citizens who are Arab if they played by the rules. All right. So I'm actually going to, for the last couple minutes, because why the heck not? I'm going to have my friend call in. Just got to send him over the number to call in. But his name's Roberto, and I will kind of let him introduce himself as the head of the Mid-Atlantic state of JSA. So he's a very political guy. But I got to send him the number real quick. But anyways, back to the discussion of what I was talking about, if I could ever find what I'm looking for. Here we go. Just going to send this over to him. All right. So my point is while I wait for Roberto to call his numbers, today's discussion was very interesting. I mean, she's made some very good points, but I think she's too extreme. A lot of it makes no sense. So here we are, just waiting for Roberto. Hello, Roberto.
Hey, Bryce, it's me and Ian.
Oh, hey, Ian and Roberto. All right, well, these two are from JSA, Junior Statesmen of America, and I know that they've been dying to give their feedback on this interview. So I'll turn it over to you guys. What do you think?
Could you run us through the bullet points of the interview, because our connection here is not exactly the best thing in the world.
Yeah, so we talked about essentially, she says that Israel is an occupying state, that, if we want peace in this world and they are oppressors, so is the United States. Intervention is a bad thing, and that we are ultimately depriving people of liberty and freedom.
All right, I'm going to have Ian give his opinion first since he's Jewish.
Oh, really? Well, I think that things that Israel does aren't always that good. They have violated international law on several occasions. On the other hand, I think by the doctrine of self-determination, the Jewish people do have the right to a homeland. So I think that it needs to be genuine negotiations for a two-state solution. But I think the United States has on many times hampered those negotiations because they're actually, in many cases, the neoconservative establishment not interested in peace. They're interested in war profiteering, quite frankly. So I think if there's some way to make a genuine discussion for a two-state solution, I think that would be the long-run most beneficial thing.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And, I mean, they have come close and then fell apart, and that's been the cycle. But my problem with what her argument was is that Israel has offered that in the past. Israel has offered the two-state solution, has offered to give back land, has given back land. And every single time they're greeted with suicide bombs, and then we are supposed to feel terrible for these people, but their government is an oppressive regime of nutcases.
Bryce, I'm gonna just say something here. I think that there's a mistake that your guest was making. That is that she's confusing the wants of the Israeli people against the wants of the radical Zionists, who basically drive Netanyahu's policy agenda. Netanyahu is nothing but an arm of the right wing of Israeli politics. There is a big contingent in Israeli politics that wants peace, that wants a two-state solution. That's something that really exists there. And the United States has brokered a lot of peace agreements between the Palestinians and the Israelis to achieve peace in that region. But I think that, and I strongly believe that, as long as Hamas and Hezbollah are the people who are leading in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, in Palestine, the peace cannot be achieved because you cannot negotiate with a terrorist organization like they are.
Oh, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. Now, my question is, and I think this is where she was getting at, does the United States play a role in the world as the destroyer of freedom and liberty? I mean, throughout history, it seems that we've provided and created and assisted in creating more democracies than destroyed. I will not defend us in the sense that we've only created them, because obviously we've destroyed Iran and much of the Middle East. But my question is really, why is she trouncing the United States and Israel when we provide all these rights to our people? And we try to pursue other countries to do the same, but we can't help it if they don't.
Well, I think, as Roberto kind of mentioned, it's sometimes the worst voices that speak the loudest on this issue. You have, Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud Conservative Party, along with, people like AIPAC in the United States, who I really don't think have any interest in peace. I think they're, quite frankly, bigoted and racist in their foreign policy. And I don't think they want peace. I think that they want dominance. And that the more moderate to left people who are really interested in peace need to figure out a way to take the power back.
Ian, let me ask you. I disagree with the settlements, as did she. And I think from what you're saying, you would too. But what in what sense do you feel that Israel is an apartheid state? She mentioned that in one of her videos. So, I mean, I know they do a lot of things wrong, but would you go as far to call them an apartheid state of segregation almost?
I mean, okay, so actually we have somebody here who thinks that Israel is an apartheid state. Her name is Maddie Norman. She's the chapter president of the Princeton High School Junior State Chapter. So, Maddie, why is Israel an apartheid state?
I think that
political crew coming, all right.
Specifically in the areas of occupation, you see a
huge disparity between the legal rights afforded to Israeli and Palestinian citizens, which last time I checked is a definition of an apartheid state. All right, gotta go.
All right, so we have the whole JSA, it sounds like, coming on and off the phone. All right, you know what? This is the whole conversation for another time, and I'd love to have you guys back. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about what JSA is, Roberto, so our crowd can hear, and if they want to I know
sure.
There's
Of course.
good fundraising time.
So the Junior States of America, thank you, Bryce. The Junior States of America is the largest student-run civics group in the United States with over 11,000 members in 34 different states across the United States. We were founded in 1934, and we just celebrated our 80th anniversary. We are one of the fastest-growing student organizations in the United States, and what we espouse is the merits of active citizenship and the understanding of American politics through active debate at state and regional conventions.
All right, very cool. So why don't you tell people, if they wanted to donate money, where they could do that? People tend to do that.
Yeah, sure. So to donate money, you can go, especially to the Mid-Atlantic State, go to jsa.org/MAS. 100% of the money that is donated goes to helping underprivileged students attend our JSA conferences, which are quite life-changing experiences. So if you're looking to make an investment in the future of our nation, you can always visit jsa.org/MAS to make a donation. $5 goes a long way, especially with these people. 100% of the funds donated go towards students.
All right, you guys owe me a episode, you and Ian, or individually. I don't care, but you guys better come back on. I want you guys back on. Thank you guys for coming on the show. I know we're going to wind things down in the next couple of minutes.
Goodbye, brother.
Have a good one, guys. All right, so you just heard from my friends Ian and Roberto. I've known Ian for the past couple of years just from JSA, and I've known Roberto since I was little. Always debating, always having fun, and I think that's the beauty of this country is that we can do things like that. And but I would still like the NSA to be there to, make sure we're not plotting any bomb threats or anything. And to me, that kind of makes me sound like Sarah Palin. But, oh well. Anyways, this has been an interesting episode. I want your thoughts, so why don't you hit us up on Opinionation on Facebook. We're nearing 9,000 likes, so come on, keep them coming. I just want a couple more, just a few more.
Over 9,000.
You know what, Rick? Why don't you come on the show for the last couple minutes? Everybody's coming on. What do you think about the conversation we had with Carey?
I would, but I have a lot of background noise going on right now, so we'll have to do this another time.
All right. You know what? On that note, forget it. We're out. I'm Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation. I want your opinion, so go leave comments. You want to be on the show? Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter. We'll be there. I'll catch you next week, everybody.
All right, guys, we're ready for our four-season sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh no, we'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh no, wait, a family hub.
Yeah! No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons Sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to receive your free, no-obligation brochure from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
More reasons for Four Seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-928-7007. That's 800-928-7007. Call 800-928-7007 today.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, security and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.